Hello, hello, hello to all of you out there. I am so glad that you decided to join us for the Create the Life You Love podcast with the Chapters Network. I'm your host, Georgia Woodbine, and as I always say, the purpose of this podcast is to share conversations with successful entrepreneurs, business owners, and provide you with content that really gives you strategies and action tips on how to grow in life and in business. I am so happy again that you've decided to join us. Feel free to share comments, to ask questions during this podcast. Like I said again, the purpose is to share the knowledge, support you, empower you, and to really give you tools that help you move forward in creating the life you love. Remember to like, to subscribe, and to share this podcast with everyone you know. Go to my website, www.georgiawoodbine.com. And also, I wanted to let you guys know that you could view my real estate book. It's called Selling Secrets. It's on my website at www.georgiawoodbine.com. And without further ado, we would like to welcome our guest, Michael Levine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Georgia. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome. Michael Levine works with Cross County Mortgage and he helps guide his clients through home loans and the process that really gives them the most effective strategies. So he's going to be sharing some tips and tools with us. And, we're going to deep dive into some questions that a lot of people have, especially like right now in the real estate market and the interest rates, and people are afraid to buy. And we're going to dive right into all of that stuff. So, why don't you first start off by telling us a little bit about your backstory and how you ended up in this profession?
Sure. I'm going on my 23rd year of helping individuals and families achieve their dreams of home ownership. I have a sales background. So since I graduated college, I've always been in sales, and I happen to be looking for work. And I was at a friend's house, and I happened to be talking to someone sitting next to me who I knew to be very successful, and told him I was looking for work. And he informed me that he owns a mortgage company. And from there, I sat down with him and his partner, who I also knew, and right away, my eyes opened up, and we had a conversation, and I said, "This is for me." So, interesting story. Back then, we cold call people to refinance their homes, and the first phone call that I made, I knew nothing about the mortgage business. I didn't even know how to read a rate sheet. But the first person I contacted, I wound up refinancing.
Wow. Wow. Would you say that you love what you do?
I totally do. The best part is you're helping people with the biggest purchase of their life. So when I go to the closings and we kind of go through the whole entire process, and there's a little bit of stress and some anxiety, we get to that closing table, and they get the keys for their brand new house. That just looking at them and just seeing how happy they are and seeing those smiling faces, just just kind of makes what I do just resonate. Um,
Mhm.
and
Makes
it's
it all
why.
worthwhile. Right, right.
Exactly.
Totally. Um, so why don't you share with us like one of the biggest misconception most people have about purchasing a home?
Well, I would say one of the biggest ones is that people think that you need to have 20% down, you need to have perfect credit, and you need to be making millions of dollars a year to qualify for a home. That's simply not true. Clearly you should have pretty decent credit, but there's so many products out there that if your credit's not perfect, if you don't have 20% to put down, um, you know, you're not in the top 1% of wage earners out there.
Mhm.
There should be a product out there for you. So that's one of the biggest, misnomers is, people think that the process is super hard, and only a specific amount of people, can qualify to purchase a home.
Wow. So, like right now with the market, like a lot of buyers are afraid to buy because they feel like the interest rates are so high. What would you recommend? Like, what kind of advice can you give to buyers right now? That because rent is so expensive now that it just makes sense to buy. I mean, it's astronomical rent. And I think people are really starting to look at their finances and say, you know what? I'd rather build equity and invest in myself instead of paying someone else's mortgage. So, what kind of advice can you give to people out there that are looking to buy at this time?
Well, first and foremost, if you're thinking about purchasing a home, you definitely should have a conversation with someone. So have a conversation with the loan officer, find out what your buying power is. But also, you mentioned that mortgage rates are high, rent is high, and both of those things are true. I mean, mortgage rates are higher than where they were. They're not necessarily high if you're looking at 30 and 40 years and you're looking at history. One of the things I like to do is it's for me it's all about the mortgage payment. It's not necessarily where rates, how much are you, what price range you're looking to buy a house. It's really where are you comfortable making that mortgage payment. And if we can fit your goals into that box, it's a good time to buy. There's a saying, and you've probably heard it,
Mhm.
that you date the rate and you marry the house.
I,
You know,
I was just gonna say that marry the house
so
and date the mortgage.
so you can always refinance your home if mortgage rates drop and it makes sense for you. But if that mortgage payment works, it's a great time to buy. I get asked all the time, is it a great time to buy? And the answer is it really depends. It depends on everyone's circumstance. It depends on everyone's goals. So, it's not necessarily a yes, but if we can, you know, get you in the box and have that mortgage payment work and get you, pre-approved for something that is going to fit your needs, then it is a great time to buy.
Exactly. And that's, because I'm in real estate as well as a realtor, I say the same thing. It's like, when is a good time? No one ever knows. This is a market that's always going to be unpredictable, right? Like, we're never going to know, like, what's going to happen. So, if it's something that you really want to do, like you said, talk to someone like Mike and really look at your finances, look at your budget, look at what makes sense for you, and don't worry about all the madness that you're listening to or what's around you, because people are trying to scare you and say don't do this. You have to really tailor it, like you said, to your needs and what's going to work for you. Now, can you share some of the challenges that you faced when you first stepped into this industry?
Sure. So when when I first got in the mortgage industry, and I know I mentioned it earlier, I didn't even know how to read a rate sheet. Like I was coming into the business literally knowing nothing. That was the bad news. The good news was I was trained not only in the mortgage business but in sales by two of the best salespeople, not just that I know, but in the country. But I really didn't know anything, and I didn't have a book of business
Hmm.
back then. Back in 2002, we would spend like 2 hours a night, 3 hours a night, just cold calling people to refinance. And that's really where I got my start. But I didn't have, real estate agents and financial advisors and past clients and social media. That wasn't even around back then, where I can actually get business from. So I was really starting from the ground up. But the good thing was, it was actually a really good time in the mortgage business back then. Rates were low, especially for that, for where they were previously. And so there was a lot of people looking to buy houses and refinance. But really, I mean, the biggest challenge I had was I didn't have a book of business, so I was starting from fresh. And I just got engaged at that time.
Oh, okay. That was motivating.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so, I mean, what's the hardest part of keeping your clients on track? Because I know, like, sometimes working with my clients, it's like, they say one thing, you do what they want, then they change their minds, then they're all over the place. Like, what's the hardest part of, like, keeping your clients on track for the goal?
Sure. So that's a great question. When I have a conversation with someone in the beginning of the process, and then we have that contract and we're ready to move forward, I let them know that there's three things that can hold up their loan from closing in time. Number one is if there's an appraisal issue. Number two is if there's a title issue. And number three is them if they're not communicating with us and getting us any requested paperwork. I let them know every day that passes where we're waiting for an updated pay stub or an asset statement. We don't receive that. It's an extra day that, we're going to be from getting to the finish line. So I just let them know from the beginning. I set expectations with them.
Hmm.
Our clients have busy lives, so we get that as well. Between working and families and everything else they're doing and the stress of buying a house, you want to have some empathy as well. But, we set that expectation in the beginning. And, I do let them know that my team and I are going to reach out to them. We may be emailing them. But what I also do is I also follow up with like a text or a phone call. So if someone from my team is sending an email, I'm also reaching out to them as well. Not to be persistent, but they may not be looking at their emails all day. So if I send a text or a quick phone call, depending on the schedules, that also helps as well. But
Hmm.
I don't have, if I set expectations, more times than not, I'm not having an issue with kind of, moving the process along.
Okay. I mean, especially the business that we're in, that's like it could be stressful at times. How do you can you share some tips on how you find balance between your business and personal life? Because that's important to have balance.
Sure. So as much as I love my business and I love my clientele and I love my business partners, I do have a family. And there's times, I'm actually spending with my family, but the key word again is setting expectations. So when I have a conversation for the first time, I inform, my new buyers that there's three ways that they can reach out to me. One is the good old fashioned 20th century phone call.
Hmm.
Another is email, and the third is text. And I don't. There's not one that I like better than the other. Whatever they're comfortable with. But I do let them know that there's sometimes, it might be the evening or it might be the weekend where I'm not in the office or necessarily in front of my computer. So if they, have a question or they're concerned or they're anxious about something, just to send me a text message and then I'll call them back as soon as possible. So, I understand, there's times people, especially on the weekends, are putting offers on houses. So I do need to be there for them.
Right.
And the really good news is I have a great family that understands, what I do. But it's just kind of like managing expectations and, with clientele and also, with my family. But, it's not easy and it took me a while to really get that balance down. But I think right now we do a pretty good job.
That's wonderful. That's really, really important. You know, how so one of the things that I always talk about as a life coach as well is about how important mindset is to achieving your goals. Because like you said, even dealing with your clients is about their mindset, right? About what they're trying to do, what they're trying to buy, how they're going to go about it. What would you say some important things are for someone having that mindset to succeed in this process of purchasing a home?
Sure. So we kind of have like a saying on my team, like make every day a win.
Hmm.
So, I can write down goals, and I write down goals in December for the following year, and I do look at them pretty often. I look at them, every couple of weeks to see, how I'm doing. But just writing down goals is kind of meaningless if you're actually not putting a plan in action. So, mindset really comes in as well with that. You have to be focused, you have to be organized, but you know, there's times. I mean, listen, we're human beings. There's days where I'm not having like a great day. Maybe a client decided to go somewhere else for their mortgage, or something didn't go as planned. I have this philosophy, and I've had it for a while. Not to like leave work, like stressed out, right? I
Hmm.
can be a little stressed out during the day, while I'm working, but once I'm home, put that stress to the side, and it kind of goes back to that like work family balance.
Hmm.
You really have to. Again, there's going to be days you're stressed, but you just have to kind of like push on and try to find something positive in every day.
Absolutely. One of the things that I always tell people is Stay away from analysis paralysis
Oh,
because sometimes people overthink things to the point where they never make a decision to take action. And that's like crazy because that's preventing you from reaching that goal or attaining that home or doing like they always kind of like talk themselves out of, right? Don't you run into people like that? They talk themselves out of why they can't do something. So one of the valuable the most valuable commodities that we have is what? Our time. Our time, and so what would you like to comment on that, like as far as like dealing with clients that are like constantly not making decisions, not like on board with like, okay, they're almost at the finish line, they can't make a decision. How do you deal with clients like that?
so I feel like real estate agents like yourself and loan officers as well, that we're therapists as well, right? So so there is a lot of times, and again, I mentioned this earlier, it's the biggest purchase someone is going to make. It's a home. So there's definitely going to be some anxiety. There's going to be a little stress as well. Our goal is to try to reduce that stress and that anxiety level as much as possible. But yes, I mean, there's times when people just can't make that decision. And I hear it from real estate agents all the time as well. It's a perfect house for them, and they just won't pull the trigger, or they're going, below the asking price. They're not going to get the house. And, you know, and they're serious about buying a house, but, sometimes they just need to have that conversation, whether it be the real estate agent or maybe a family member or myself. And without being pushy, obviously, because at the end of the day, they have to be comfortable. But yeah, I mean, there's people who, sometimes they just need to, and I say this all the time, especially if it's like a Friday, just take the weekend just to think about things, or just take tonight and think about things. I'm not putting any pressure on you. It's the last thing I ever want to do is to pressure someone. Um,
Hmm.
but just be there to answer any questions. But I always tell them, another thing as well is I always suggest and advise that anytime someone's looking at a house, just to make a list of things that are really important to them. And
Hmm.
then, if in that house, it's like a plus or it's really good. Let's say it's a large kitchen.
Hmm.
Just put like a check mark next to it. Or let's say the kitchen's not nice and they really want a nice kitchen. Put like a negative mark or an X or something like that. And then just kind of like look through it, add it up, and just kind of see. And you can have a determination of if that house is going to be the right house for you.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely times when people are telling you, "Oh, I love this house," and they're just having a hard time making a decision. And I just say, you know what, just take some time. If there's multiple people involved, just discuss and make a decision. Maybe it's not the right house for you.
That's true. That's true. And like you said, the industry that we in, we have to have so much patience. A lot of patience. Segueing to that, like, what would you think, like, the three most important habits to be a successful entrepreneur and or a business owner? Like, what are two or three tips that you can share?
Well, so I think first and foremost is just knowing your products. Okay, so you could be selling anything. You can have a car wash. No matter what it is, you just really have to have a good knowledge of your products, and you also have to have like a good team as well. That's going to be there to work side by side with you. I also think communication and transparency, which kind of almost go hand in hand, I think those are really, really important things as well. I know in our business, and it's one of the things I hear all the time when I talk to real estate agents is, we'll ask them like, what are you not getting out there from loan officers, or what is the most important thing to you? And they'll say communication. And
Mm-hmm.
it's always been one of my big things because before I was in sales, I was in customer service. So communication is just so important, especially when someone's buying a house. They,
Mm-hmm.
like I mentioned, they're stressed, there's anxiety. So just being there, holding their hand, that's really what I think is key. And also being trustworthy, integrity, those two go hand in hand as well. I mean, if someone feels like, you're like trying to mislead them, the worst thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. They know, they can feel it.
Right from you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, we're heading near to the end of the show, but there is like two more questions I want to ask you.
Sure.
You did talk a little bit about that. What would you say the key is to building a great team?
So I think one of the biggest keys is there's a difference between leaders and bosses. So, leaders are someone that is working side by side with their team. Okay. So I think one of the biggest things is that, anyone you have on your team that they can come to you, that they can talk to you, that you're teammates, right? It's not boss and employee. You're working for
Okay.
one common goal. In my case, it's to get someone to the closing table. So I think that's like one of the biggest things, and, again, just treating people with respect, and I know where I am right now, on the carbon team, and I've worked for some other, companies and lenders in the past, and I didn't feel that. But in the team that I'm in now, like we have a philosophy where everybody is equal. Some might have different positions, but we all
Right.
treat each other with respect. Even like something as simple as just sending an email, like just with like a really nice professional greeting.
Mhm.
Just I think it's just so important. If you're and again, we're in a stressful business, and
Right.
we're not perfect, but if people just feel like they're working for like a dictatorship, it just doesn't work. It's just not. It's
Hmm.
just not. You're not going to be able to retain people that way.
Exactly. Exactly. That is so true. I agree with you 100% on that. One of the signature questions I normally ask my guests is if you were to look in the mirror and see your younger self, what would you tell him?
So that's a great question. I would say when you're talking younger self, you mean before I got in this business, or younger self in the business?
No, younger self, just you as a young boy, just talking to yourself in the mirror before you got into this business, just advice you would give yourself as a young boy.
So, I guess first and foremost would have been to probably like eat better and exercise more. I'm talking about like high school and college age and college
Hmm.
years. I always worked pretty hard. I'll take it like a step further as well. Your question, in the business, world, when I started out, I did stress out a lot. I stressed out, in the process of helping people. I stressed out about closing loans, and I learned a long time ago that stress doesn't help anybody,
Hmm.
anxiety doesn't help anybody, and worry doesn't help anybody. So, but yeah, I would say honestly, it would be just to kind of like exercise a little more, and eat right. I always had a pretty good work ethic, so I know some people might say like just work harder when I was younger. I always
Hmm.
had that. My father instilled that in me from like
Hmm.
early age. But it would really just be like just take care of myself, and also don't worry about what others think about you.
Oh,
Um,
I love it. I love that. I
um,
love that one.
yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, people have negative things to say about you. That's, so be it. It probably says more about them than it says about you.
Oh, I love that. That's one of the biggest things I talk about. Stop comparing yourself to other people
Yeah.
because that alleviates so much stress, especially in being in such a competitive field with people. It's like you focus on what you're good at, what makes you authentic, what makes you shine, what makes you special, what makes your clients happy, what they love about you. Focus on that and don't worry about the rest of the stuff.
Exactly.
So, thank you so much for participating. You definitely have to come back because I have so many people that have questions about what you do. So you definitely have to come back on the show again because I have some. I didn't get to go through all the questions I had for you this time, but I'll save them for next time. But thank you so much for taking your time out to be with us. Can you share your social media handles with our audience to let them know how they could reach you, how they can get in contact with you, how they can get more info?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, the best way to really reach me is my phone. just calling me. So my phone number is 914-391-1183. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. No TikTok and YouTube as of yet. But you can actually just search my name and then search Cross Country Mortgage, and I should pop up. But if anybody, wants to reach out to me, they have any mortgage related questions, I'm here to help you in any way I can. Just give me a call, and I'll give my email address as well, which is Michael, Michael, dot Levine, Levine, at CCM, which stands for Cross Country Mortgage.com. And Georgia, by the way, thank you so much. This was a real pleasure for me as well.
Absolutely.
I would love to come back anytime. Just let me
Thank
know.
you. Thank you so much. We're so happy that you were able to join us. And like I said, I will definitely have you back. To all the audience out there, please be sure to like, share this podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And remember, you all out there, we all have the freedom to of choice to be mindfully aware and create the experiences that we desire and less of the things that we don't desire. Thanks again. Thank you, Michael. Take care, everyone. Until next time, we're on the Create the Life You Love podcast with Georgia Woodbine. And I'm so happy that we're able to share such great information with you all out there. Thanks for joining us. Bye.